Welcome to the season two of the Health for All podcast. This is your host, Sanat. And today I have with me Vidur Mahajan, Dr. Vidur Mahajan. And to be absolutely right, he's nodding his head. He's being a little too humble, but um, I'm super stoked about this conversation because uh, uh, Dr. Vidur is the CEO of an enterprise imaging AI platform that brings close to about 100 plus AI applications, as well as 45 plus vendors into the radiology workflow. Um, More than just getting into all of those technical details, in simple terms, he's built the Amazon for AI solutions specifically for radiology and healthcare. Um, Previously, prior to his fame in CARP.ai, he was leading Mahajan, his family business in India, which is one of the leading radiology chains. Also, a little bit of a trivia: he's got 6-year-old twins, an active father, an entrepreneur, and of course, exciting changes that's happening in his entrepreneurial life. Vidur, like I said, super stoked about this conversation. Welcome to the first episode of season two. So you're going to be launching the season two for the Health for All podcast. So I'm super excited. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Sanat. And thank you for that introduction, and thank you for mentioning Meher and Shlok. They are my everything. So, yeah, awesome. Shoot.
Wonderful, wonderful. So before I go into the weeds and nuts of everything that you do, um, I'm going to ask you a few quick ones. What would you prefer more, inspiration or discipline?
Oh, certainly inspiration.
Okay. Cure all diseases or solve poverty forever?
Solve poverty forever.
Okay, awesome. Um, okay, this one's interesting. Know how you're going to die or when you're going to die.
Hmm. How?
And why so?
Because the when will put a finiteness to everything, right?
Yeah,
Like, I'd
yeah.
rather not know when is what I'm saying, right? The
Okay,
how,
that's
then I can,
awesome.
try to like figure out how I want, or accept the how. But accepting the when, I think, is a more difficult uh thing. I don't know.
Lovely. No, lovely. Have the power to be invisible or the power to read minds?
Hmm. I think invisible. People have a lot of crap in their minds. I don't want access to it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Last one, freedom or stability?
Oh, freedom for sure. Freedom. Yeah, yeah.
Superb, superb, lovely. I loved your answers. So, Vidur, uh,
Is there a
have,
personality score that you're now going to give me,
I'm going to give you a
Sanat?
9 out of a 10. I've taken 1 point out, which we will send you by email as to why. Okay, superb. Vidur, I see a lot of soul in you, right? As I speak to you in the couple of conversations that we've had before, you bring a lot of soul to the conversation that you have. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, right? What was your childhood like? Was there a role model? I simply put, what was Vidur's childhood like?
No, I had, Sanat, the privilege of having the perfect childhood, right? Well, at least to me, what is the perfect childhood? And I grew up in New Delhi. Uh, my mom and dad were also born and raised in Delhi. Then moved was taken to the US for a year, as my dad was, doing a fellowship at the MD Anderson Hospital there.
Mm,
My first birthday was in Houston. Then, then they all got back to India. Then I grew up. My grandfather is one of the pioneers of education in India. He started this school for the DAV. The DAV schools and colleges. For those who
yes.
don't know, they have like 1,000 schools across the country, colleges, universities, etc. So he started the first school ever by DAV, on which like these now 1,000 schools are modeled, called the Hansraj Model School. So that's just a long-winded way of saying that I was the principal of my school's grandson, right? So I was, me and my brother were the most, spoiled kids on campus. Unfortunately, he had to retire when I was in grade three. So then
Okay.
we moved. Then we had to move where we were living. We were living on campus, so we had a
Yeah.
swimming pool in our backyard.
Oh, lovely.
It was touch wood, the perfect childhood, right?
Yeah.
Then we moved to another place. I moved to another school. I moved to Delhi Public School. First Vasant Vihar, then RK Puram,
Archipuram. Okay.
uh, which is like for those who don't know, it's like the biggest kind of good school in Delhi.
Mm,
It's even called a factory by many.
mm,
I
mm.
don't know what the produce is, but
They
it's
produced you.
so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah. So yeah, went through school doing all the regular school things people do. Was always very interested in technology. I started coding when I was in, yeah, I was privileged. I got my first computer when I was in class seven,
Mm,
I was 12 years old. This was, 1998, 97.
mm.
Uh, Nobody had a computer. Of course, I practically lived in a imaging center,
Yeah.
which my dad ran, like two imaging centers. So was always fascinated by the computers there,
Yeah.
and this concept of multimedia computers had just come
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
and started coding, hacking. I had like a couple of people in my life who guided me on the computer side.
Yeah.
Then I think I always wanted to be an engineer.
Yeah.
So always wanted to be a software engineer. You know, ever since I got my hands on a computer.
Yeah.
Uh, but then there was this kind of pivotal moment in my life that people close to me know about. I think I was in grade 10. And in India, in like grade 11 is where you basically decide what you want to be in life forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you have to choose between like science, accounts, and
Yeah.
humanities and arts. And then if you choose science, you have to choose, I'm going to try to become a doctor or an
Yeah.
engineer uh, or anything else. So I was always, I had always had the inclination to choose to become an engineer in grade 11.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, we were at this one party in Delhi. And as it happens in such parties, there are uh, older people who, kind of ask the kids that, what are you going to become in life? And I was 15. So I said, Auntie, I want to become a computer engineer. And then she looked at my dad and said that, oh, so who will handle your empire? Right. And this is like a 15-year-old kid, right? And my dad was like, no, we'll sell it. And it like, I don't think it's an empire today, but it certainly was not an empire at that time. Right? Two imaging centers, but very run from the
Successfully
soul,
done.
if I
Yeah.
may borrow your.
Yeah.
So my dad said, ki bech denge, which, is
Yeah.
Hindi for we'll sell it.
Yeah.
So that moment, I was like, okay, what does that mean? Right? My dad will just give up on everything he has because I choose to, not do medicine and do
Yeah.
computer science instead. Uh, so then that flicked a switch in my. And by the way, my dad was always against me doing medicine. That's the other
Mm.
interesting angle, right? So then, next day I decided, I told him that, Pa, I don't think I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. Uh, my dad has been my inspiration, my role model. I think which is the case for most kids that age, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
especially there were no podcasts where one could look at Sanat Uncle and say that, I want to grow up and be like. So yeah, so that flipped a switch. I moved over to the sciences side, to the medical side. Uh, Hated botany. Got a -2 in botany once in one of those exams.
I
So
want to have a look at your garden now.
I wish there was one. It's fake grass.
Yeah, fake. AI generated.
So that happened, and then yeah, I think I luckily got into like one of the top schools in India. Went to Bombay to study. Um, like in India, we have exams for everything, right? So I cleared the exam, got like a 300 something rank out of whatever million people. So I wasn't a studious kid at all,
Yeah.
right? But I think I just had this ability to work hard at the appropriate times, in life. Whether it was medical school, I would have this ability to kind of like 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks prior to an exam, kind of catch
Mm.
up and scrape through as the bare minimum that was needed.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that was my childhood. I had a blast. My brother and I were very mischievous lot. I tell stories about my childhood to my kids all the time. So um, it yeah, that was
Lovely.
me. Then went
No.
to med school in Mumbai. Then
Yeah.
that's why I came back to Delhi. And
Uh, it looks like even from this story, Vidur, you're somebody who's conscious about what you hear, what you listen, and that drives your actions. That's pretty nice to hear.
I don't
You,
know, is it Sanat? Like
I think so. It's not easy to change your field of passion overnight from engineering to medicine because your dad decided, okay, yaar, bhej denge, right? Or we'll sell the business out. So it means that there is that sense of purpose, that sense of wanting to do something to not uh, damage what has been built so
mm,
far, right? I think it speaks a lot about how you wired yourself overnight to wake that calling up, right? Um, and for many, you'll sleep through it saying, I think I should do something, and then you wake up in the morning and go on a run and forget about it, right?
I
Um,
wish I went on runs.
well, you should be glad you didn't go on that run after that party. No, that's great. I think
Cool, nice.
you said you spent a lot of time in the radiology room and you were immersed in medical sciences very early on. You got your doctor degree. Uh, See, when you took over from your dad, right? Of course, the way your dad was running Mahajan, let's call it an empire, right? And the empire empire can be relative. It could be the Ambanis or it could be the Mahajans, right? But after you started to take on the business and started running it, um, what changed, right? And when you went in, of course, I'm guessing you were like, okay, now I've got the family business and I just need to run it. But were these things that you did and things that you changed, and you got some new DNA into the place?
So Sanat, to be very honest, it was not a handover
Yeah,
in the sense that so my mom, my dad, both were very much involved in the business.
yeah.
And so it was not that it was a handover,
Mm,
it was an augmentation,
yeah,
right? Literally, my pitch to my dad, uh, because for uh, it was a bit of a uncommon thing to do at the time to not do residency and like be a
yeah.
doctor but not specialize. So I decided to not do radiology, and instead just again as a 23, 24-year old join a business and try to do it. But my pitch to my dad was very simple, that I will be the most free person who does not have a specific job at the company. So I can do all the things that you wish you could do, but
Mm,
can't, right? And it, because my aspiration by that time was to run and grow Mahajan Imaging. It was more to grow Mahajan Imaging.
mm,
Running, I was doing a good job of already. And I realized that if my primary objective is business,
yeah.
right? My dad So for those who don't know, my dad brought like MRI into India.
Yeah.
Like first ever radiologist to be appointed a doctor to the president. He was, I think, not even 40. Youngest doctor to get the Padam Shri award, and he's a very, very decorated but very humble, guy. If
Yeah.
you meet him, you'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this." So, so,
Yeah.
uh, so he was a great doctor first and a good businessman by chance, right?
Mm.
Now, I wanted to be, my primary goal was to be a good business guy,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So then that would just mean that I would be a sucky doctor,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Mm.
Uh, so I would go through my training wanting to be a good businessman. So I would study clinical medicine from the lens of um business, which is, I don't think, right. And I'm also good at rationalizing
Mm.
weird decisions. So, so I, so that's how I kind of came into the business. So my job was to do stuff that nobody was doing, right? So it was not that I took too many decisions from my parents. I'll tell you the way I describe it to my friends is up until 2010, which is when I joined the business. My parents used to go for a vacation for a month and a half every year, right? When I joined, their vacation stopped
Wow, that is
because
impressive.
because, because I just overloaded them with so much work that because we 10, 12 years of when I was there, we went from like I think 5x, 6x our revenue,
Okay.
through all bootstrapped, right? Became like a business from a family shop kind of thing, went from paper to digital, etc. Giving like a very
How many clinics did you end up with, Vidur?
so at that time, 2010, uh, we had two hospital-based practices,
Yeah.
or maybe three two hospital-based clinics, and one standalone outpatient
Mm.
clinic. Uh, 20 today there are 11. I think like five in hospital, six outside, and it's growing. Now my brother runs that business. So the irony is that he's not a doctor and he's doing a phenomenal job of running it. So
Mm.
I didn't
Yeah.
actually have to do medicine to do all that. So yeah, so that's uh,
Considering how um, successful your dad was and how publicly recognized he was, not just from the field that he's in, but also how much he's contributing to the progress of health to India. Um, uh, was it too big a shoes to fill in? Did you have all of that? But I think what was amazing is you came with a very different angle. You said, "Okay, I'm going to
I
do
didn't.
this."
I see. One, I didn't want to fill his shoes
Yeah,
like that. So another side story is that to be a great radiologist, your favorite subject in medicine has to be anatomy, right? Anatomy is basically what does the normal human body look like,
yeah,
right? Which muscle goes where, and because unless you know what the normal human body looks like, you'll not be able to know what the abnormal human body
yeah,
looks like,
yeah.
right? I hated it. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
so it was just I didn't have the
Yeah,
skill for it, right?
yeah,
And um, yeah, there's a lot of med school screw ups that I did that proved to me that it's a good thing for patients that I don't become a radiologist, because again, becoming a radiologist is contingent on an exam, not
yeah.
that where everything is covered, not just anatomy. So yeah, so I think I didn't actually. You're right. I didn't. I it was a conscious decision to not. It's not that he was retiring. He's still very much right. Like
Active.
work like whatever 14 hours a day, and all that. So yeah, didn't need to fill any shoes per se.
Given your edge towards business and technology and the business of technology and hence leading what you are now, uh, before you are doing what you're doing now, is there a case or an incident that you saw clinically where you were like, Man, if only there was some technological interface, this would never have happened.
I know, Sanat, so no, right?
Mm,
And no, because uh, it was my life to see such cases every day, right? Like,
mm,
because, if you're running a hospital, you will not have one incident of uh, when things could have been better, right? You will have like one incident every day, and then if you scale 10x, you will have 10 incidents per day, and like that. So I don't I don't have a you're typically expected to have like a personal mishap story that leads to this kind of
mm,
mind-blowing
mm.
idea, and apple falling on your head kind of thing. So that I had apples falling on my head like all the time, right? So I needed an umbrella. So yeah, but it's just, if you go to, so jokes apart, right?
Yeah,
You do not need a personal story to see the demand supply gap in healthcare
yeah.
at all. All you have to do is go to any hospital anywhere
Mm,
in the world,
mm, mm,
right? And just spend more than an hour there at the front desk, looking at patients just frustrated, looking at staff just frustrated in their inability to deal with those patients, and just doctors who are again frustrated because they want to help every patient out there but can't. And they, like, if you go to most hospitals in the world, you ask doctors, they're like, some of them just say, I wish I had time to go pee. From somebody who goes to a hospital once a year, right? You would need a personal insight or a personal story to kind of trigger a thought. But for somebody whose life it is to be in a clinical environment, see it, you're like, no,
it every day. Yeah,
yeah, you're experiencing it, right? You yourself are in a scenario where you're overburdened, and you're wishing that, hey, I wish there was some magic wand, with which I could help all these people, especially in the developing world. Because
correct.
in the developing world, and the reason I chose to solve poverty over disease is because people die because of lack of money
Mm.
in India, right? In the developing countries across the world, right? Which is ridiculous, right? Like,
Mm.
just the idea is so strange. So you don't need a personal story to figure that out.
I mean, share very similar sentiments, right? But I guess the where I saw a massive uh, a gap in what there is in the system is, of course, you see it on a day-to-day basis in a hospital and clinic. But when I went through the system here during COVID, um, I was misdiagnosed for lymphoma,
Oh,
and I
shucks.
was admitted for about close to 2.5 months, uh, because the reports kept going from one doctor to another doctor to one specialist to another specialist, and one radiologist to another radiologist. Everyone just solving it like it was a episode on House, right? Uh, Nobody really knew what it was. But story apart, that's when I was like, if at all there was an AI interface that could give some level of confidence to tell you that this is or this not, you at least can know where the misdiagnosis is happening, right? So very well said, Vidur. Uh, so I think a really nice segue into what exactly you do and the birth of CARPL AI, right? For all the listeners here, right? We gave a little bit of an introduction when we spoke about
You
the,
played it up too much.
yeah, no, but it's amazing. I mean, to get an US FDA approval in the first few years of your inception, to get the traction that you are across various regions in the world, it is commendable, right? And congratulations on everything that you're doing. And I'm personally immensely proud about what you're doing. So, uh, tell the listeners about what is Carpel AI? What is it? What does it do?
Sure. So maybe I'll give some uh, additional context around how we came to be. Uh, so I was running Mahajan Imaging. I had gone to to the US for a couple of years. I interned at AT Carney,
Yes.
in the New York office with Alice and Potenza.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yes, so that was mind blowing for me. Like, how can people be so smart? Was. So I went to the US, went through the whole, existential shebang of like go back to India or stay in the US for 5 years and then go back to India. Because again, my dream was always to grow the imaging business. Right?
Mm,
Uh, so came back to India because of a bunch of reasons. Started running the business again, and this was 2016, right?
mm,
And 2016 was also the year where the first statements around AI will replace doctors, etc., were made. The first few AI startups were emerging, right? There was Zebra Medical from Israel,
mm,
AI Doc from Israel, there was Viz AI from the US, there was Cure AI from India, bunch of Analytic from the US as well. A bunch of companies were starting, and the GE, Philips, Siemens of the world were also trying to figure out their AI strategies. Like deep learning had basically happened,
mm,
right? And so I was always very, interested in technology research, etc. So I started building connections with these companies. In fact, a pivotal moment for me was that while I was at B school, I had the privilege of going to Israel
mm,
and spending some time at Zebra Medical's office. Right? It was run by another Wharton grad, Eyal Gura. So spent some time there and realized that I don't know if they're going to replace radiologists or not, but something is going to happen. Uh, because you have the world's smartest people working to solve something, something will come out of it. So that then when I went back to India, I started just informally doing research projects with all of these people, just out of interest, right? So we then became Sanat very quickly uh, the world's kind of, and I say this with a lot of humility, but the world's epicenter for clinical validation of AI for radiology, right? Very niche, but anybody anywhere in the world who was building any kind of AI knew that there
mm,
is this one crazy group of people in New Delhi that run these imaging centers who are like they never say no.
mm,
So
mm, mm,
so and we also because it was becoming we loved it, right? You're publishing papers in the Lancet and you're
mm,
presenting papers all over the world. So we formalized all of it into a research group
mm.
that was called Caring,
Yeah.
the Center for Advanced Research in Imaging, Neurosciences, and Genomics.
Mm,
Right. Once we did that, like we helped GE get an FDA approval for their first ever, like clinical AI product. Bunch of things. Like we were like,
yeah.
we were on a high. Uh,
Yeah.
but very much consultative, very much research. Our desired outcome was a paper, right? It was not to make money, none of that. And then it hit us. In fact, my dad had gone to spend a week with Zebra Medical.
Mm,
Interesting that Zebra has played such a pivotal role.
mm,
Uh, so my dad had gone to spend a week with Zebra Medical, and he came back and he said, "Guys, uh, these tech companies, because they had other companies there as well, these tech companies think that radiology departments are going to be filled with servers, one server for every AI use case." And a use case, Sanat, is essentially a combination of a body part, a modality, and a
yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
Right? So head CT stroke is
Yeah.
one use case. Chest X-ray tuberculosis
Yeah.
is another use case. So the idea was because you need different AI models and every AI model needs different level of compute to run. So, if we're using five use cases, we'll put five servers.
Wow.
If you're going to be using 25 use cases, we'll put 25 servers. And oh,
Wow.
guess what? If you want five use cases each from five different companies, you will have to put, 25 servers
Yeah.
anyways. So uh, my dad came back and he was like, guys, I think somebody needs to
So,
build a
Vidur,
middle layer. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
so just so that the listeners understand this a little better, right? And the reason you're saying that is because every provider of this AI solution had their own authenticity and their own data related architecture, which is why they need a separate server and cannot be uh, on the same server, right?
Yeah, you think of it, right? You want to buy five different softwares,
Mm,
right? The software are available only as uh, the software needs hardware to run,
correct.
right? Now, at that time, cloud was very, very
Yeah.
and expensive also. It is still expensive if you want to run like frequent high intensity AI tasks,
Yeah.
right? So the idea was that if I'm buying software from five different companies, head CT from one, chest CT from another, chest X-ray, prostate, spine, whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm buying five tools from five different companies, those five different companies will have five different specifications
Correct.
of computers, literally like laptops, or not laptops, but servers
Yeah.
that they require to run.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if you want to run Windows and Mac and Linux, you will need three different, kind of servers.
Devices.
Uh, so that's so that was the challenge. And even though theoretically an IT team could orchestrate deploying, the five software on one piece of hardware, imagine these are five competing companies,
Mm.
right? So they don't want each other
You don't want
getting
each other's data.
access
Correct.
to. So what was needed was somebody to kind of orchestrate this trust to begin with, and user interface and technology and data security, etc. Right? So yeah, so that is how we kind of came to be, where we were a research group again, right? We created this thing called RAID, Radiology AI Deployment, right? So, which was one laptop running five AIs from five different companies, right? And the idea was very simple. You push a scan to it. It will figure out what
Yeah.
scan this is. Is it head, chest, whatever? It will run the appropriate AI and send back the outputs. That was all it did. But at RSNA 2018 was when we were roaming around the floor, showing it to everybody we could, kind of grab. And because we were a research group, nobody thought of us as commercial, so we had that additional access. And our intent, neither was our intent commercial at that time,
Mm. Mm.
right? We were just, we had built something cool, we wanted to show it off. Uh,
Yeah.
and it was the pivotal moment. And we showed people this. We showed people that you can actually do head to heads of these five different AI systems. You can interview the AI and you can see that, hey, which amongst these five is actually useful to me on my data,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
The response we got was just mind blowing. And that's when we also realized that RAID was not a very good name. So, so we came up with a better name, which was Caring Analytics Platform. And Caring Analytics Platform became CARPL. So
Yeah.
we are kind of a meta acronym.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. So you are
So,
you are very similar to if I were to draw parallels between the pharmaceutical space, right? You're
mm,
in a contract research and development company that is playing around with molecules, right?
we were. So that
Yeah.
is our
That's
inception.
what you were. That's how you started,
That's what. Yes,
right?
exactly.
And then this CRO CDMO decides that, hey, listen, I have my own product. I can even tell them what products can work better, what ingredients can work better for them to make it with higher efficacy, etc. What two products can come together to do a combination product, etc. Right? So that's what
So yes, but the so absolutely, but that is only part of the game, right?
yeah,
So I don't know if we can actually stretch that analogy to what we do today, because the problem we were solving, Sanat, was not that.
correct.
The problem we were solving is how does a radiologist go from reporting 80 scans a day to 800 scans a day,
Yeah,
right? Because that was the problem. Because unless AI can help you make that quantum leap, it's useless, right? Going from 80 to 100 scans a day, you can do that with hard work, right?
yeah,
Or like coffee. So the problem we wanted to solve was truly of AI adoption by doctors,
mm,
But a major component of adopting, if I can call it non-deterministic technology, is trust,
mm, mm,
right? And how do you trust something if you're not able to play around with it, right? And that's how the validation platform kind of came to be. Initially, also, right, when we started off as the validation shop, our goal was very simple. Our goal was that, hey, why are people not buying AI left, right, center? It's beautiful, right? Like anybody can do a sensitivity and specificity
mm,
calculation and
mm.
get to that. They were still not getting adopted. Even today, we face that challenge, right? So the idea was, okay, we will run AI on a bunch of data. We'll try to figure out its mistakes, help these companies address those mistakes so that adoption happens.
Yeah.
Because at our core, we were always clinical people. Like building the technology is not the end game, right?
Mm,
Getting that same patient, right, who's frustrated at the front desk, that same receptionist who's frustrated at his or her their
mm.
inability to deal with that patient. Like, how do you get those? Uh, yeah, how do you get those answers? Uh,
So, so Vidur, that so superb. So then the whole platform and the ability to have multiple different AI models, uh, access to a healthcare provider or the end user to in one-stop shop for all of those solutions on your platform, right? Now, a recent publication, right, in the European Journal of Radiology, noted that while the perception on AI's value add in enhancing anomaly detection and characterization is high, several radiologists, especially the younger guys, right, who are supposed to be actually, like you said, tech savvy, um, are actually concerned about their AI literacy. Right now, you're just going to the other side of the spectrum, right? Um, Among specialists, specifically breast cancer, which is one of the leading reasons for cancer deaths, there are nuanced views on its professional implications, etc. Right? Uh, how are you basically convincing skeptical radiologists, right, uh, that are embracing AI, or how can you convince them that AI can be of value add?
so, so Sanat, there's a nuance there, right? I'll get to your answer also, but
Yeah,
from a couple perspective,
yeah,
right? We are the enablement layer,
correct.
right? We are you want to buy something, and Amazon is the way you can go ahead and buy it,
Mm,
right? Amazon, let's say you want to buy a pair of headphones, right?
yeah.
Amazon will typically not tell you the value of a headphone and that you should go ahead and buy a headphone, right? That is JBL or Bose, right? Whatever their responsibility. So, from a CARPL perspective today, we don't do too much, convincing around AI. Most of our customers today are those who are convinced by the power of AI but are unable to use it,
Mm.
right? So I just wanted to draw out that nuance. Of course, there are different people in every organization, and then we have to help our customers, evangelize AI, because at the end of the day, our goal is adoption, right? uh, if there's a lot of intent but no adoption, that's also not really helpful for anyone.
So
So
is it a just a
yes.
question? Is it so, Vidur, when somebody reaches out to Carpel AI, is it the healthcare provider typically that comes to you, or is it the SI player or the technology player that's working with the hospital that comes to you? Um, uh, of course, there could be various different types of clientele you'll have, but your first uh, biggest so-called client uh, category would be who?
No, first biggest client category, Sanat, is healthcare providers,
Yeah,
right? Whether imaging centers or
yeah,
hospitals.
yeah.
And they all have a common theme where they have tried hard to use AI,
Mm, mm,
but have not been able to. And then
perfect.
somehow they have discovered that, there is this one platform that allows me to do everything I want to do with AI. And gives me access to all of the world's AI, and kind of um, is a solution to that problem of how do I deal with 15 different companies that kind of sort of do the same thing, and I want to use seven of them, right? So that is our ICP in that sense. Uh, but there are still some uh, ways in which it becomes very evident that AI is the future, right? So there is no doubt today, Sanat, that uh, for chest X-ray, for musculoskeletal X-ray, and for mammograms, if you are not using AI, you are kind of doing injustice uh, to yourself and to your patient. To yourself, because these three uh, types of use cases can make you go much faster, right? Already the reimbursement for at least X-rays is very low globally. So if you can, move exponentially uh, quicker as you report these scans while maintaining or even improving your quality, you actually get significant ROI, right? If you do it well with the right integrations on that. On Mammo, uh, you know, it is widely established now that AI assistance makes you again faster, better. So I think the way, at least what works for us, is the following, where we will tell the radiologists that, hey, let's just deploy a box of CARPL in your office with the, three, four, five different AIs loaded onto it. You, security permitting, you load 1,000 scans onto that box, run this AI, at least see it with your eyes. Because a lot of the people who are skeptical today are skeptical because they've not actually seen AI systems with their own eyes, right? AI outputs with their own eyes on their data, right? Research done at Harvard, presented to folks in Indonesia. It's another world, right? It's very difficult to extrapolate that trust. But if I was to, literally behind you put a box and you were to say, hey, bring any image, see what AI does on it. Good, bad, ugly, I don't care, because my incentive is to help you, not to sell AI to you. So I
Got
just
it.
want to help you pick the best AI. So that works really well. And of course, there's an adoption curve. There are risk appetites. Like if many people don't want to have that conversation with their IT team till they're very, because there is a huge IT security angle here as
Yeah,
well. But yeah, so that's typically our approach, is to just show them the proof in the pudding
got
and
it.
take
So,
it from there.
Vidur, just to bring this to life a little bit more to the providers who are listening, because I know of multiple um, CEOs and CIOs, chief digital officers, as well as their teams within these hospitals and conglomerates within Southeast Asia and larger Asia that are really trying to move the needle on AI, right? In how they're using it, how they're scaling it. And 1 year back, when I presented at the Health Forum in Singapore on the urgent need for AI in hospitals, um, it was almost like a an alien conversation. Like, are you sure we're ready to take this on, right? But this year, when I presented a different topic, almost three-fourths of the room and the conversations were all about AI and AI models and what do we do with AI in hospitals. Um, Having said that, so now the appetite is very high, right? So you are seeing a lot of investment. You are seeing a lot more appetite towards uh, you know uh, experimenting new models, etc. So just to bring this to life, so there's CARPL.ai. There's a platform. The hospital goes and chooses the modules that they want. Let's say it's for brain scan and liver scan and let's say chest, and then they start to uh, uh, you help them package that, and then they can start to use that in their hospital, either for a small pilot or a number of different clinics. Now, I think where the big question comes for many of these hospitals is, okay, is our data ready to take on your AI model? Because most, even the best of the hospitals in the region have, they don't have data that is standardized to what you potentially your AI model can read, right?
Mhm.
Uh, can you throw some light on how do you go around that to ensure that we're able to have a seamless implementation?
So, Sanat, the advantage of being a platform like
Mm,
ours is that our focus is very different from the focus of somebody who is building an AI model.
mm,
So, it is my job to make sure that I get the right data
mm,
from the right provider to the right AI model, run it in a safe, secure, compliant manner, and bring that output of that model again back to the provider. So it's just a long-winded way of saying that that is our work to make sure that the head CT scan that is mislabeled as chest CT scan does get routed to the head CT algorithm and not the chest CT algorithm. So of course, it's lesser work for us if you have, you know, very well organized data, and everything is nicely labeled, and all the interconnections are there, etc. But uh, we've already built out, like, we are the pipes, right? We're the plumbing, right?
yeah,
Plumbing has to get dirty and then needs to get
yeah.
cleaned, and you need to have mechanisms for that. So yeah, so that is our job. So I don't think providers should simply worry about ROI, in my view,
Mm, mm,
right? Whether they are ready to adopt AI or not from a data housing and data readiness perspective, uh, if they're getting 5x ROI, we'll figure it out, right? It's like, you've got like rockets being caught midair now. So certainly,
yeah,
figuring out whether it's a head CT or a chest CT is a
yeah,
trivial problem. And now,
yeah.
with advances in visual language models and stuff like that, it's become, much, much easier. But yeah, so that's what I would say to somebody, is that leave that to us, right? That's our job. We'll tell you how we do it, of
Yeah.
course. Like, maybe beyond the scope of this podcast, uh, yeah, but I don't see data readiness as a problem. The question the CIO, chief AI officer, the chief medical officer should be asking is, um, what do I get in return? If I give you $1 for AI, what do I get in return? How many lives do I save? How many errors do I reduce? How many dollars do I either make or save? That whole conversation is what I feel more.
Vidur, do you see, because of course there's also a manpower crisis, right, in terms of nurses and radiologists. Uh, this, of course, will alleviate that as well. Do you see that also as a thread of conversation with many of the providers that you're talking to, saying that, now, 20% of my radiologist time is saved, and hence he or she is able to do something else.
Well, I think again, Sanat, comes back to the demand supply mismatch. I think most good people have more work than they can handle.
Mm.
So giving them that 20% incremental free time just means they can do 20% more work,
Yeah,
right? So of course, there are radiologists whose overall level of anxiety is sometimes reduced
yeah,
by using AI, where yeah, you get these, especially as radiologists get a little bit more dissociated from patients, right?
yeah,
Teleradiology and stuff like that. You get an X-ray of the hand, and there's supposed to be a fracture there. There's like so much going on here that what do you even look at, right? Whereas if you were in the hospital, you can just ask the patient, right? Where is your pain? The patient says my pain is here. Then you don't need to look at anything else. But if you just get a scan that says suspected fracture, so um, having an AI overread, helping you, guiding you, or just telling you that, hey, according to me, there's nothing here. So, kind of, uh, some people think of it as automation bias. I think of it as help. Uh, it just makes your overall level of anxiety lower. So you might still be reporting the same number of scans. You might not be saving that 20% time, but yeah, you're more focused, you're better, you're happier. So it's a longer term game. So yeah, so that's how we think about it.
Superb. And I think, I watched that testimonial from Synapse as well as IMED, and both of them reiterate how your platform is and the collaboration with them is not just allowing for a trusted source of AI models that they can get access to, but also what was interesting that I heard is if you do have an internal team that is developing uh, AI models, and it also lets them get faster and more mature because of your validation platforms, etc., which is phenomenal. Uh, Talk a little bit about Vidur security and what kind of uh, of course I'm pretty sure that you have that covered, but because of the fact that the regulatory landscape across many of the countries is not evolved in the same pace, how are you dealing with that in terms of security?
So, kind of, from a security standpoint, and I can say this as somebody who goes to the world's largest providers and says, "Give me all your data, I'll run AI on it, and save you a bunch of time and make you better and all that." The regulation and compliance is the easier part. It
Yeah.
is dealing with the actual threat of somebody going after you. Uh, that is the tougher part, right? Because s- the certification paper, while we have all of them, like 27,001, SOC 2, Type 2,
Yeah.
whatever, uh, they they don't stop people from attacking,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Yeah. It's not like somebody's going to say, "Oh, these guys are, they have a big lock, so let's not go steal
Yeah.
what they have." So, from our standpoint, that is why so one, counterintuitively, we don't do a lot of cloud,
Mm.
right? Because our clients are want things to at least start on them, right? So because then it's, if there's ever an issue, you pull a plug and you're done. Like it's all uh, safe from that standpoint, right? So we don't do a lot of cloud. We call ourselves infra agnostic, right? So what that means is you can put us on cloud or you can put us in a box in an office or anywhere in between, right? Depending on what your security protocols, your security guidance is. Then also, Sanat, remember, not only am I going to the world's largest healthcare providers and saying, "Give me all your data, I will run AI on it." I am going to them and saying, "Give me all your data, I will run somebody else's AI
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, on it."
Yeah.
Right? So we have very strong compliance mechanisms
Yeah.
with our partners also,
Mm.
right? We force a lot of them to test their software. There's VAPT, vulnerability and penetration testing that happens. So we enable all of that for our partners, because we work with an ecosystem of players. You could be $1 million valuation, you could be $1 billion valuation, right?
Mm.
But we're treating all of them the same. So we have very strong mechanisms where when we onboard someone onto our platform, they have to conform to a minimum uh, very stringent threshold of security, etc. So there's a bunch of hardening, etc., that goes into it. Uh, but yes, now also the security tooling exists,
Mm.
right, to enable a lot of this stuff, programmatically. Uh, but yes, it is front and center for us. Like everybody is extremely concerned in our
Yeah.
company about security.
That's yeah, because that's one thing that constantly keeps coming up as a conversation, whether it's the Ministry of Health or whether it is any of the providers. Eh, Taking a slight segue into advancement, right? Of course, you know, we all know that uh, AI models can read the scan, it can tell you results, etc. And with a certain level of precision, which is almost 99 plus percent in many of the models now. Now, what are some of the advances, Vidur, in AI and language models, and what are we going to see next?
So, to be honest, Sanat, it's not my area of expertise.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, language models. We use language models. We abuse language models. A lot of what we do today is uh, going from reports that
Mm,
are final approved reports by
mm,
radiologists uh, to compare what a radiologist said with what an AI said, and then take a call on how well the AI is performing, right? So monitoring the AI solution,
mm,
how much is it screwing up, what's its sensitivity,
mm,
specificity, whatever. So we don't core large language models, we are users of those models.
mm.
Um, we are not exactly, uh, I guess, yeah, everybody is a user of those
Yeah,
models.
yeah, yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that uh, we feel that a lot of administrative and low level AI tasks today, like I said, right? Like, how do you figure out if it's a head CT or a chest CT?
Mm,
You ask Llama 3.2 and it will give you the answer, right?
mm,
You show it one slice of a head CT, you ask it, in the right way, what is this? It'll tell you it's a head CT scan, right? And then you route it to the head CT scan model,
mm,
which is so powerful that
mm,
it is crazy. Earlier in the day, you would have needed to have a separate head CT identification model and a separate chest CT identification model. And, so that's how, so it enables us specifically to be a better pipe,
mm.
right? And the advancement is so rapid that, uh, you know, it's great for folks like us.
So Vidur, maybe I
Yeah.
can ask this. Maybe I can ask you this question, which would be super interesting for users and prospective users. Uh, you are training your AI model with existing reports to see how accurate your AI is, right? Which is how it becomes intelligence. Now, can you tell me the other way around as to based on the AIs that you've deployed and the data potentially that you have, if you can give some sense to our listeners on what percentage of wrong diagnosis has an AI detected in some of the markets that you worked in?
Sure. So, uh, generally, Sanad, the thing I can say is that it's the number of cases that of wrong diagnosis that the AI has prevented,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is what I would say. And the reason I call out that is because there is an AI use case. We call it a retrospective quality audit,
Mm,
right? Where you give me your last 1 year's mammograms,
correct.
I will tell you which of them
That
were
is
wrong,
right. Mm.
right? uh, Takes a certain level of maturity of organization to want to even look at that. But the thing we again we find it very difficult to, it's a difficult thing to track, like how
Mm,
many cases of missed diagnosis did we prevent. But then we have this concept of wow cases,
mm,
right? Basically,
mm,
wow word, wherein our users from across the world will flag certain cases and say that, wow, this is a case where AI truly helped change uh, a
outcome.
decision. Yeah.
Mm,
And that happens every day. Every day we operate in North America, Brazil, Singapore, and Australia. And yeah, we get notified every day that there was this small fracture. I didn't see it, or I wouldn't have seen it had the AI not called it out. Of course, it's a journey, right? So, after a point, the AI becomes like so much part of your routine that you don't dissociate your thinking from it.
that's
Like,
comment. Yeah.
But generally, when people start, there's also this gamification angle that, oh,
Mm.
let me see if the AI picked up this,
Correct.
let me see that. So,
Correct.
so we enjoy that. But yes, and like at RSNA every year and every conference we go, we present these wow cases, right? That these are cases reported by our users. The users are also cited more often than not, and they are the world's greatest organizations, and they're saying that, hey, I would have missed this had the
Mm.
AI not been there. So
Brilliant.
very powerful in that sense.
Brilliant, Vidur. So moving to the last segment of our podcast, right? Um, so what's the future for CARPL AI now? What's next?
No, we've not even started, Sanath, honestly. We are we are very much in that, seed to series A kind of journey. We've just found product market fit. Uh, we have the world is very benevolent in their perception of us, is what I would say. We have, great friends who say nice things about us, believe nice things about us. But we are very, very cognizant of
Mm.
uh, our stage and where we are in this journey. Uh, Today we touch about 1 million lives a year, uh, right? Uh, but we've not gotten radiologists to be 10x more productive,
Mm.
right? And productive is both from uh, a speed and accuracy perspective.
Mm.
So so our goal, our vision, and this is where we're also separate, like a little different from other companies like us, where our goal is not to just deploy AI and sell AI and make money off of
Mm.
that. Right?
Mm.
Our goal is to uh, make radiologists 10x more productive in the next 5 to 7 years. Uh, and as we go, on that journey, it's not easy because it requires a lot of mindset shift. It requires a lot of compensation, structuring changes, right? We draw a lot of learnings from the world of pathology and lab medicine, where one pathologist probably signs out 5,000 tests per day,
Mm.
whereas a radiologist is still stuck at that sub 100 number. So that's the future for Couple. We want to make radiologists 10x more productive, and everything else is a byproduct of that, right?
Mm.
So yes, that's what we're
No, I
trying to
love
do.
it. Love it. And I love the 10x productivity of a radiologist, which is phenomenal because it's going to give so much more bandwidth to the overall healthcare community itself. And finally, given how fast the landscape is evolving, um, where do you see the future of this industry going? Who will survive? What consolidation will happen, etc.
Very difficult to say, Sanat. Very
Mm.
difficult to say. It's I can give you a few scenarios that might happen.
Mm.
Strategically, we try to hedge for all, because honestly, like one, I can't control it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to. I think it's too soon to take a view. But one is, of course, where you have these hundreds of companies, thousands of companies all over the world building niche solutions for radiologists, and one radiologist uses like 200 different AIs,
Mm.
and but doesn't know that they're using 200 different AIs because they're all presented in a single unified format, etc. And they achieve that 10x productivity. The second, and if I may say, equally likely scenario, or maybe just a little bit lesser likely scenario, is radiologists building their own AI.
Mm.
Right? If you could have a agent that is looking at everything that a radiologist is doing, and looks at it for say 100 days, then on day 101, can the AI start doing some of that, right? Whether it's something as simple as putting the right image in the right box and setting up a scan to read, automatically calling a referring doctor, because it knows that, in this
Mm,
case, the radiologist is going to need to speak to the guy. There's a lot
mm.
of stuff where radiologists might end up, building their own AI in a non-researchy manner, right? This is like not research. Um, the third scenario is where a lot of AI comes into the devices. Right? I think this is least likely because
Yeah.
we'll still have to see, is it situation A where one device, one MRI machine from GE has 100 AIs from 100 places across the world. I don't think the OEMs, again, I say this with a lot of humility, but I don't think the OEMs have the structures in place to be able to rapidly build 100 different models for 100 different solutions, because just their governance and regulatory,
Yeah, will not.
doesn't
Yeah.
support it, right? And also, if seventh graders today are building AI, then what is the moat, right? How can you say that my AI today is the best ever, right? So those are the three ways I see this pan out. I do know for a fact that if things keep continuing the way it is today, right? Imaging is growing at about 10% a year, whereas doctors doing imaging are growing about 2 to 4% a year. It's just going to either implode, or prices are just going to keep going higher, and the number of patients that get access to imaging is going to go down. So that's my view.
Phenomenal, Vidur, especially on your point three on med tech and integration of AI. Uh, I know a lot of medtech players are trying it, but what the complication of that, like you rightly said, is one is of course the regulatory hurdle. The second one is also the when it comes to after service and maintenance and actually maintaining maintenance support. It's a completely different ball game when you have 9 or 10 different AI models running in the system, right? Adds to the complexity of how they're going to be deploying this when most of them are on a cost-cutting, lean, efficiency-related journey right now. But Vidur, what a lovely last over an hour. I absolutely enjoyed it. As I was going over an hour, I was like, you know what, this should continue. This is amazing. Uh, Thanks for all of the wonderful knowledge that you've brought to the podcast, and most importantly, insights. Because I do know after this podcast there are going to be a lot of asks on what CARP AI can do, right? For many of the providers and healthcare institutions across the region and globally. So thank you for your time during your very busy travel
Not at
schedule.
all.
I loved
Not
every
at all.
minute of it. Is- Sending you super success and wishes for the future of CARPL AI, and look forward to continuing our dialogue.
Thank you so much, Sanat. Means the world, and I know you speak from the heart, so means a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sanat.